Hello, today we are going to be working on the slope-intercept form of a line. So one of the most important pieces of information we need to know is the equation for the slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. M is the coefficient of x, the number in front of x, and that represents the slope of the line. And then the sign along with b, see how it says plus b, is representative of the y-intercept. Okay, so here are a couple of questions that we're going to be answering that could be asked when it comes to the slope-intercept form of a line. So the first one is the point 5, 3 on the line y equals 4x minus 2? So we all know that a point is of the form x, y. So we have an equation that has a y and an x, so we're just going to plug in. So we have 3 for y equals 4 parentheses 5 minus 2. So if I split it down the middle, keep the left on the left, and then on the right we're going to do the math. 4 times 5 minus 2 is 18. Now we evaluate the statement. Is 3 equal to 18? The answer is no. So since they are not equal, that means that the point I plugged in did not make the equation true, which means this is not a point on the line. If I had plugged in a point and I wound up with a true statement for the equation, then it is a point on the line. So the answer here is no. For the next question, it says, given y equals negative 2x plus 7, what is the slope and y-intercept? So this equation is already in the slope-intercept form, so I can easily determine the slope and y-intercept because I just take out the numbers. So the number in front of x is negative 2. That represents our slope because it's the coefficient. And the constant at the end of the equation is a positive 7. So that is our y-intercept. Okay, so we can use the letters to represent our slope and y-intercept. So in this case, b equals a positive 7. And slope, which is m, equals negative 2. Then we have the question down here. Write the equation of the line with a slope of negative 3 and a y-intercept of negative 6. So they gave me two pieces of information and asked me to write the equation of a line. Notice they didn't tell me which form to write it in because slope-intercept form isn't the only form of a line. But based on the information they gave, slope and y-intercept, it makes sense to use this form because this form has slope and y-intercept right here. So we just have to plug in. So I'm going to start with y equals, I'm going to plug in the slope, which is negative 3. Of course, you still need your x. And finally, we have a y-intercept of negative 6, so I'm going to include the sign and write just minus 6. And that is the equation of our line. The next question, write the equation of a line that passes through the points 2, 4, and 0, 8. So the first thing we need is the slope. We can determine that from the 2 points using the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's our first step. Then we need to identify the y-intercept. Now, I've decided that using this form of a line is the best option here because I can find the slope between any 2 points. That's easy. But they also gave me a special point, 0, 8. 0, 8 is the y-intercept because the y-intercept always occurs when x is 0. So my x is 0, which means 8 is my y-intercept. So I'm going to write that down at the top. b equals 8 right off the bat. That's why I decided the slope-intercept form is the best option because they gave me the intercept and all I have to do is find slope. So to find slope, x1, y1, x2, y2, start with the fraction and the subtraction because those are 3 pieces that must be there before I start plugging in. I have y2 minus y1, so that's 8 minus 4. And then 0 minus 2. So either put this in the calculator with alpha y equals enter as the shortcut to get a fraction in the calculator, or just do the math. 8 minus 4 is 4. 0 minus 2 is -2. Here is our slope. Now we just have to write the equation of a line. I have slope, which is m, and I have b, which is my y-intercept. Plug in the same way we did for number 3. So here we go. Y equals -2 for slope, and then plus 8 for the y-intercept. So another type of question that they're going to ask is to write the equation of a line, and then they're going to give you a table. So once again, this table, I'm going to use the slope-intercept form because I can determine the average rate of change, or the slope, the constant average rate of change rather, from a table easily. And this table also gave me my y-intercept because looky here, this is where x is 0, so my y-intercept is 6. So right off to the side, I'm going to write b equals 6, and I'm going to use that later when I plug into the equation. Now I just need to determine the average rate of change. So first I'm going to confirm that this is a linear function, and I'm going to determine the average rate of change from the table. I have a video on that if you want to take a look at that video on my channel. So for right now, we're going to do the change in y over the change in x. The change in y goes up by 4, up by 4, up by 4. And the change in x is plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So when I find the slope, which is the change in y over the change in x, all three will wind up being the same. Also a characteristic of linear functions, right? Because it's a constant average rate of change. So the change in y is 4 over 1, which is 4. There's my slope, plain and simple. Notice, all you had to do was find the slope and identify the y-intercept, and it's easy enough to plug into the equation. So y equals, here's my slope, so that becomes 4x. Here's my y-intercept, that's a positive 6, so plus 6. All done. And last but not least, here's a graph. I've already identified the 2 points. Notice that one of the points I picked was the y-intercept, because that's going to be easy to plug into my equation like I did for number 4 and 5. The other point can be any other point on the line. So I just picked the next integer, which is 1, and it wound up being 7. Okay, and that's just the example I chose. So here we go. Once again, here is my y-intercept, so I know that b equals 5. I'll come back to that later. In the meantime, I'm going to determine the slope between the 2 points. So this is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. Set up my fraction and subtraction. 7 minus 5 over 1 minus 0. 7 minus 5 is 2, 1 minus 0 is 1, so I wind up with a slope of 2. Y equals 2 for the slope, x because it's got to be there, and then I have a positive 5 for the y-intercept. And that's all. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.